Alright, I'm fucking back, team. Oh, thanks to resub Arc, TK, and Jackie. I really hope aliens have visited Earth or will visit Earth at some fucking point. That'd be so cool. Thanks to the gift sub Kioxy. That means it's okay to leak. I'm still not gonna give away the guy's info, but yeah. I don't even know how much I can even say without getting whatever in trouble, but yeah. He would tell my parents all kinds of goofy shit about, like, military. And he was big into the alien stuff, like I said. I would have loved to ask him about it. It's a fucking shame. UFO busted? I mean, I don't really need to go into the science and math of why a UFO is probably not an alien visiting us. I can just kind of rationalize that. The man who vanished into thin air.
In 2006.
Hold on, let me fact check this before we get in there. A former Canadian defense prime minister confirmed that aliens live... No way. Canada's ex-defense minister. Aliens would give us more tech if we'd stop wars. What? He doesn't seem overly reliable. Paul Hellyer, who has long insisted that aliens had visited Earth for many years, says that when aliens saw the atomic bomb, they decided that we were a great threat to the cosmos. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm starting to have my doubts. I don't want to disturb what you're doing, but there are 4 different species of aliens that have been visiting Earth for thousands of years. The Star of Bethlehem is one of God's flying saucers, he added. And he used to believe that there would be between 2 and 12 different species of alien, but now he's received reports that there might be as many as 80. Using this guy as an argument to prove that aliens live on Earth is probably the worst person you could have represent that. Holy shit. This is nuts. Thank you for telling me about this guy. I want to read more about him. Paul Hellyer. Holy shit, he's 97. Alright, let's run it.
27-year-old Brian Schaefer walked to a bar and was never seen again.
Hey, you the 5 gift subs again,
the case
looking.
has since received widespread attention and a thorough investigation. But to date...
Stop bringing up Bob Lazar. Everything I've seen from Bob Lazar seems wildly wildly hard to believe. I don't know, I was having such a hard time saying that. I've looked up the whole Bob Lazar thing. Unless maybe I'm looking at biased sources or something, but everything I've seen seems like there's a real lack of hard evidence and credible source. Unless there's new shit from Bob Lazar over the last couple years. I also saw that, Remy. Israeli space security chief recently said that aliens exist in a galactic federation. Right? Yeah, the former Israeli space security chief says extraterrestrials exist in a galactic federation. Oh, I don't know why I keep fucking up that word. I hope all this shit is true, to be honest.
When classes ended on Friday, March 31st, 2006, it signaled the start of spring break for Brian Schaefer, a medical student at the Ohio State University. He started his big break from school by having dinner at the Outback Steakhouse with his father, Randy Schaefer. Randy later stated that he never understood why Brian would go out that evening. He seemed exhausted from studying so much. After dinner, Brian met with his friend, William Clint.
You believe
Florence,
cursed milk but not Bob Lazar? I never believed cursed milk. I was asking for the science behind it. I didn't realize it was a fucking prank.
And de-stressing. The two walked to the Ugly Tuna Saloona, an indoors bar located in Columbus, Ohio. Brian invited his brother, Derek, and Derek's wife, Maureen, but they had gone to a show at the Funny Bone Comedy Club, which ran late. They left the show tired and decided to drive straight home, passing on Brian's invitation. At around 10 p.m., Brian called his girlfriend, Alexis Wagner, who was also a second-year medical student at the same university.
Thanks to give Subcaz.
She and Brian were scheduled to fly to Miami on Monday morning, so she decided to visit her family in Toledo before leaving. After his call with Alexis, Brian and Clint went bar hopping, visiting several nearby locations, such as the Short North Tavern and the Brothers Bar. They had a shot of hard liquor at each stop, while working their way down to the Arena District. At around midnight, the two met with one of Clint's friends, Meredith Reed, who drove them back to the Ugly Tuna Saloona for a final round of drinks.
Such a cool name, Ugly Tuna Saloona. Sounds like the worst place to get drinks.
At around 1:15 a.m., security footage captures Brian, Clint, and Meredith making their way up the escalator to the Ugly Tuna Saloona. At some point after this, Clint and Brian are back outside the bar talking to two girls, Amber Ruick and Brighton Zatko. While Clint spoke to Amber, Brian was left to speak to Brighton. Apparently Brian was pretty flirty.
Uh-oh.
Reportedly, he had even kissed Brighton's neck.
Whoa! Okay, so he cheated.
At 1:57 a.m., Brian can be seen in a small alcove, just off camera next to a beige door. And it would be the last time Brian was ever seen again. It was here that Brighton put her number in Brian's phone, and then walked back inside the Ugly Tuna Saloona to use the restroom.
And the bitch pickle.
When she returned, Brian was nowhere to be found. Since it was common for Brian to occasionally separate from his friends, Clint and Meredith didn't think much of it. However, when the bar closed at 2 a.m., they were left outside waiting for Brian.
Got sucked into his phone?
They assumed that Brian must have wandered home. After all, his apartment was only located a few blocks away. He never reappeared. Brian missed his flight to Miami the following Monday and was officially declared missing.
I'm not sure if we have metric. Thanks to the resub, Nancy Drew. It's
when
possible
police
Himiko,
began
maybe.
searching for Brian, they started by looking through the building's security cameras. By now, it's well known that nobody from that night ever saw Brian leave the building, and the security footage did nothing but support that narrative. Throughout all the footage, police were able to account for every single patron that entered the building, and every single one of them left except for Brian. Once the police found
have we
no
checked the
evidence of Brian's
Saloona?
wherabouts from
Is
the
he
footage,
still there, maybe?
their search efforts began
still
to spread. Officers took to the streets, sometimes with police dogs, searching throughout the city, including inside dumpsters and waste containers. They questioned residents and posted flyers with Brian's information, including some of his distinct features, such as a fleck in one of his irises and his Pearl Jam stick figure tattoo.
Thanks to the resub.
They even went so far as to check the city sewers,
Toxic,
but found nothing useful. The fact that Brian's personal belongings were untouched made matters worse. There were no signs of struggle within Brian's home, and nothing of value was missing. His bank account and credit cards remained untouched. Even his car was still parked 6 blocks from the Ugly Tuna Saloona, at his apartment on King Avenue, where his girlfriend waited for 2 days after his disappearance.
Thanks, Resub Hypnotic.
The police weren't the only ones investigating Brian's case. Alexis spent her time posting hundreds of flyers at their school campus,
Nice, Captain.
searching through dumpsters, and scouring neighborhoods by day and riverbanks by night. She even called Brian's cell phone every day for a long time. While her calls usually went straight to voicemail, there was one instance where it rang. It was one of the best sounds I've ever heard, she recalled, even if no one picked up.
Damn, that's sad. That's fucking heavy.
Singular, Brian's wireless provider, later claimed that this might have been due to a system glitch, and not an actual response from Brian's phone.
Exit Tier 1, Maddie.
Investigators were also unable to determine Brian's exact location
the Saloona was a portal to the Galactic Federation.
GPS enabled. Interestingly, a cell tower did detect a ping from Brian's cell phone in Hilliard, 14 miles northwest of Columbus. Whether or not this was also a system glitch is anyone's guess. Besides Alexis, Randy also launched his own investigation. One of the things he did was visit a psychic, who told him that Brian's body was in the water.
Good
near Bridge Pier.
investigation. Very good investigation.
This prompted Brian's family to search along the shores of the Olentangy
Classic
River.
psychic.
But
Taking
no evidence
advantage of
Brian's
vulnerable
whereabouts
people.
was ever found.
Grieving.
Throughout the years, the police have received
Scum.
many tips,
Fucking
including
scum.
possible sightings in Michigan, Texas, and even as far as Sweden. Eddie Vedder, the lead singer of Pearl Jam, mentioned Brian at one of their concerts later that year.
No, the psychic is scum, not the parents. Jesus, I'm talking about the psychic.
Last April, a young man named Brian Schaefer kind of went missing. He looks like he's in his 20s. He's 6'2", real handsome guy. If you look into this, it's out there. FindBrianSchaefer.com. That's his name, Brian Schaefer. And it feels like he's one of our own. And,
That was nice of Pearl Jam.
if you have any information, there is a reward, but you can also remain anonymous by calling Crime Stoppers Ohio. There's information on NBC4, and like I said,
Have you eaten there before, Rope?
he's
Christ.
one of us, and we miss him here tonight.
Probably ate the food and disintegrated. That place fucking sucked.
Information or idea,
You really hate the Saluna, huh?
So you can see it's quiet, you know, and imagine at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., you know, the bar was probably packed, but around here, especially if it was under construction, there's a really good chance, you know, no one would be here. So there's a parking garage right behind it. So here is the east side of the building that he disappeared in.
Probably Onyx, I think so.
From parking garage.
Thanks to the 20, man.
Here's one emergency exit. So this could have been one of the doors that he came out of. Fire pump room. There's another emergency exit. But this is there's the other.
What was the name of the
emergency
place?
exit.
The
This is
Filthy
one
Tuna
place
Saluna?
he could have went out of.
Thanks to the resub God Dragon. Ugly
And there's
Tuna
another
Saluna.
emergency exit. So there's three or four emergency exits. You know? Oh man. It's just crazy.
As time went on, this case gained widespread attention from media and online sleuths due to its puzzling nature. The very ambiguous security footage, coupled with some interesting details about Brian's past, has opened the door for speculation and theories. It's worth noting that 3 weeks before his disappearance, Brian's mother passed away due to myelodysplasia, a rare form of cancer. According to a 2018 interview with Brian's family, he was apparently so distraught by this event that he showed up 1 hour late to his mother's funeral. Moreover, about a week after Renee's passing, Brian asked Alexis to just go away with him. And a few days before he disappeared, he told her to move on and find someone else. Given the emotional hardship that Brian was enduring,
He absolutely
and
just
the fact that
ran
he was
away
most
then.
likely drunk during the night of his disappearance, some believe that he may have committed suicide. The Ugly Tuna Saluna sits on the second floor of the Gateway Film Center building. The theory is that Brian could have snuck past the main security camera, leaped from a nearby non-surveillance service door that at the time led to a construction site, and is now buried beneath the rubble. He may have even done so unintentionally.
What?
If you recall, Randy did say that Brian seemed tired that night from pulling all-nighters for his exams. And there's some evidence that might support this claim. When Detective John Hurst was interviewed about his investigation into this case, he stated that Brian got exited out of the construction site exits.
But we went over and checked the movie theater that was,
Oh, sweet.
across
Thanks,
the
guys.
way. Checked out, the entire building from top to bottom to try to figure out if he could have went, in a different direction. And the basic indication right now is somehow he got down into the construction area and most likely got exited out of there. But again, we don't have anything that's on video to support that.
What does that mean? Got exited out of there? Am I dumb? What does that mean?
The wording he chose has been the source of much speculation, causing many people to wonder if foul play was involved. There's also the possibility of a cover-up.
Kicked out?
Apparently, the construction site was a significant investment for the county, and there would, of course, be bad press if a dead body turned up before it was finished.
Nice to be some good fellow.
However, search dogs were used by the police during their investigation, especially around the area where Brian was last seen, and nothing was uncovered. Another theory is that Brian could have ran away to start a new life. Perhaps the passing of his mother and argument with his girlfriend could have caused Brian to not kill himself, but to escape and begin anew. Some people suspect that Brian might have left through a back exit, namely through an unwatched freight elevator. The area is monitored by 2 security cameras, one that automatically pans the area and another that is manually controlled. Brian could have waited for the perfect opportunity to slip past their view. Once again,
I don't think that'd be something he was thinking about. He was drunk.
There's at least some evidence.
I don't think he was thinking about being
when
like
Brian's
sneaky.
mother passed away, he reportedly received $20,000 from life insurance, which might have helped him escape. Also, according to Dan Schaefer, Brian was capable of going through sudden changes, or as he puts it, he could swing through extremes. In 1999, he was heavily into partying and drinking until he got a DUI and spent 3 days in prison. After that, he changed completely. He stopped drinking and got into exercise for about 6 months. This could suggest that Brian was no stranger to radical lifestyle changes. Brian also played guitar as part of a band during high school. Even during his years at university, he had mentioned that his main goal in life was to start his own band. To be precise, he once said on his MySpace account, "This whole doctor thing is really just a job, only temporary, until I get my band together and put out a record." Which might suggest a motive.
Not a bad plan.
I mean, could the death of his mother push him to such extremes? Probably not. Considering how popular this case has become, it would be extraordinarily difficult for Brian to hide from the public. Also, despite the then recent passing of his mother, those close to Brian said that he was handling the grief pretty well and had ambitious plans for the future. He and Alexis were scheduled to leave for Miami that Monday. The trip was actually a gift his mother had given them the previous Christmas. Alexis, along with many of their friends and families, believed that Brian was planning on proposing to her during their vacation. In fact, it was later confirmed by one of Renee's coworkers that Brian had indeed been speaking to his mother about asking Alexis for her hand. It's kind of doubtful that Brian would choose to throw this all away. At the end of the day, Brian was a promising student with a bright future. He had just received a degree in microbiology from OSU, and he was in his second year studying medicine. Whether Brian drunkenly stumbled out of the building or ran away on his own accord,
yeah, I'm kind of thinking that might have been what
happened.
happened.
By any other security camera that night. No other nearby bar had security footage of him, and the street cameras failed to catch him on the run. He was there, and then he vanished.
So do they not have cameras on like the outside of the building where the construction site was?
Other theories have arisen, ranging from murder to drug involvement, and even the smiley face killer. From the late 1990s to the 2010s, a series of mostly white, college-aged men were found dead in bodies of water across the United States, often after leaving parties or bars.
What?
Most of these men were fit, popular, and successful students.
What?
Brian undoubtedly fits this description well, but the police and FBI have discarded this possibility following their investigation. For one, there's no evidence that Brian's body is in water, or if he's even dead. And second, the FBI have concluded that the smiley face killer doesn't exist.
I was gonna fucking say.
The drug involvement theories.
I'm sure I would have heard of that.
Usage of cocaine. It's well known that medical students have to bear days of overnight studying, and some sources claim that their drugs of choice are uppers or stimulants, like the legal pill Adderall or the illegal powder cocaine. It's speculated that Brian may have purchased cocaine that evening during their bar hopping, and possibly, the dealer took note that Brian had a lot of cash, which could have led to the mugging and subsequent murder of Brian Schaefer.
I don't
Remember that this is all just speculation. it's virtually impossible to confirm whether or not Brian was into drugs without someone ratting him out.
That is a huge assumption.
There's one last theory that's quite interesting. While the police were investigating the case, they turned to questioning those who had seen Brian that night, asking them to take lie detector tests. Meredith Reed and Randy Schaefer both took the test without a problem. Clint, however, refused. Up until this time, Clint had been cooperative with the police through the investigation. However, when asked to take a lie detector test, he quickly got a lawyer, and from that point on, refused to participate any further in the search for Brian.
That's weird.
According to his attorney, Neil Rosenberg, Clint did not take the lie detector test because he had already told officers everything he knew, and didn't see the value of having to do it all over again. It should come as no surprise that this is extremely suspicious behavior from Clint.
Thanks to the prime parallel.
Furthermore, Clint is the only person to claim that Brian did, in fact, return to the bar, yet no one else has been able to corroborate his memory. Many of the people close to Brian, including his family, don't trust Clint. As soon as the detectives started getting involved, that's when he pretty much had no contact with anybody, said Derek, Brian's brother. I've always thought he definitely knows something. He just won't come forward with it. If Brian did take off somewhere, if that is the case, we just always had a strong feeling that Clint would possibly know that. Alexis Wagner agrees with Derek. She also believes that Clint has withheld information. However, she believes that Brian died and did not run off. I can't imagine he would have just done that, she said.
Well, can we ask Clint a little nicer, maybe?
2 years after Brian's disappearance,
surely there's a way to...
His father, Randy, passed away
to get that
from
info.
what could be considered a freak accident. On September 2008, Randy was at his home in central Ohio, clearing debris during a heavy windstorm, when a branch from a nearby tree broke and fell upon him, killing him.
Holy shit.
The next day, the neighbors found his body and called the police. When Randy passed away, his obituary was posted online, along with a condolence book. It was around this time that a new lead would emerge. Someone made a post on the condolence book as if it were coming from Brian himself, and the message stated a location, the U.S. Virgin Islands. At first, it gave new hope that Brian might still be alive.
Pooper and resub Taka.
However, police were able to trace the online message.
Looking forward to it. See you on Monday, man.
They determined that it was a hoax.
Yep.
As it had been posted from a computer accessible to the public in Franklin County, Ohio, not the U.S. Virgin Islands. Although the message was a hoax, it has been mentioned that the Columbus police still believe Brian to be alive. Clint's attorney, Neil Rosenberg, intimated this. Rosenberg had been writing to a private investigator named Don Corbett,
Tier 1 breaks in,
who volunteered his time to help the Schaefer family find Brian. They spoke of Clint's refusal to take a lie detector test. In April of 2009, the Ohio State student newspaper, The Lantern, even published an article regarding the exchange between Rosenberg and Corbett. If Brian is alive, which is what I'm led to believe after speaking with the detective involved, then it is Brian, and not Clint, who is causing his family pain and hardship, Rosenberg wrote. Brian should come forward and end this.
Thanks to resub Jabroni. The bits
After
pickle.
so many years, Alexis is now numb to emotions regarding Brian's case. Yet she still wonders about what happened that night. In 2009, she married a man named Eric, a contractor who was building her parents' new home. They now live in Toledo with their children.
Nice! Congrats.
As for Derek Schaefer, Brian's brother and the last remaining member of his immediate family, he states, I've thought about that night over and over and over for 10 years. What if I had been there that night? Would things have been different? Would my brother still be here? I've carried that guilt around for a while. Derek's wife, Marin, also shares her curiosity about what could have happened to Brian. We never could have believed then that 10 years later, we still don't know what happened to Brian. It's been so hard watching Derek go through this, but we had to get back into our normal lives. Derek and Marin now live in Canal Winchester with their son. Finally, as for Brian, his case remains a mystery. Did someone murder the 27-year-old?
Doubt
Or
it.
did he run away?
Maybe.
Did he kill himself? Or
No.
is he still alive?
Yeah.
In 2016, when asked these questions, Detective John Hurst had this to say. Is Brian alive? There is a possibility he is alive, but if you look at the probabilities that he isn't alive, those are
tier
just
1,
as great.
Samuel.
Was he murdered? There is nothing we have been able to recover that shows he succumbed to foul play. So again, the probability of that isn't as great as he just walked away. Did he take his own life? Most people who commit suicide want to be found. I would say that is probably in the lower category. The answers that everyone wants, everyone needs,
Probably can't watch that one, Pepin.
I don't know if we will ever have them.
Alright, looks like I'll have to solve the case. I think what happened... So he's drunk. We need to remember that. I've been drunk. I've wandered around drunk plenty of times before. I think he probably slipped out into, like, the back area, probably ended up in the construction site, and that's probably where he still lays. I absolutely think that's probably what happened. And I think Clint didn't want to do the lie detector test is because maybe they did do drugs that night, and he would worry that he'd get in trouble for drugs. I know a lot of people worry about that kind of shit when those kind of things come forward. Lie detectors are dog shit anyway, but that'd be like the chief concern for not wanting to do a lie detector test. That'd be my guess.